We good to go, Deb? Okay, welcome everyone this morning to the Finance Committee meeting. We have a report that will be coming up regarding a police budget for 2021. But at this time, I'm going to ask if there's any declarations of conflict or community interest of any of the members. Seeing none, so if it can be noted, that moves us into new business. Just wanted to make a few comments before we get into new business. We do have report 2021 Niagara Regional Police Service and Police Services Board proposed operating budget. Before I turn it over to the chief, I believe there's a presentation that's going to be moving forward, but I just want to make a couple comments. Reviewing the report, Chief, I want to commend you and your staff. It's a comprehensive budget report of over 100 pages here that the board members have gone through, and I know the service has spent quite a bit of time making sure that the information's there for us to deliberate to move forward with the budget. So I want to thank you and your staff for putting that together for us. So at this time, I'll move it over to you. I know there's a presentation. We'll be dealing with the report, but let's get through the presentation first, and then I'll ask for a mover of the report. At that point in time, then there'll be discussions, both for the report and for the presentation. Chief?
Thanks very much, Chair. I'll just wait a moment. I think Ms. Reed is going to put up the presentation. There we go. Okay, thanks very much. And again, board members, staff members, and members of our community for the opportunity to present our 2021 operating budget to you, while also providing us the opportunity to provide some context around our current situation. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our senior leadership team, in particular, Ms. Laura Rulo, our finance manager, and her finance team for the outstanding work that they've done in preparing this year's budget. The Niagara Regional Police Services Board are mandated to uphold all provincial adequacy standards as set out in the Police Services Act, and ensuring that we deliver adequate and effective policing to our communities. As the board knows and fully appreciates, matters relating to the sustainability of policing, the need for those involved in public safety to contain costs, and for police services to operate as effectively and efficiently as possible is the expectation placed upon all police services by their community, police service boards, elected officials, and funding providers. As we look forward to 2021, we also look to mark and celebrate 50 years of serving and protecting all residents of the region of Niagara. On January 1st of 1971, the 12 existing municipal police forces within the boundaries of the regional municipality of Niagara amalgamated, and the Niagara Regional Police Service was established. From its initial grassroots of 398 sworn officers and 41 civilian members, the Niagara Regional Police Service has continued to grow and evolve to where we are today, with nearly 750 sworn officers and 350 civilian members committed to protecting and serving our community. We look forward to celebrating and commemorating this important milestone with our community. In the development of our budget, which is in alignment with the board's strategic plan, the service focused on capitalizing on strengths to minimize risks and to take the greatest possible advantage of available opportunities. The board's 2019-2021 strategic plan has served as a roadmap to guide our service to effectively and efficiently deliver policing services to all residents and visitors to Niagara. As with the 2019 and 2020 budgets, the 2021 proposed operating budget continues to identify the resources that will be required to ensure the successful achievement of the three goals identified within the strategic plan, and those being public safety, fostering a culture of community collaboration and engagement, as well as enhancing organizational excellence. The year 2020 has experienced its fair share of major events that have profoundly impacted our society, economy, and our organization as well. At this time, we wanted to share some of our experiences over the past now 10 months. For the Niagara Regional Police Service, 2020 was the second year of the board's strategic plan, and we began the year with a very aggressive recruiting strategy. Our goal was to not only hire the officers that would fill vacancies from natural attrition, but also hire 40 new frontline officer positions that were approved in the 2020 budget. Within a few short months, the service and the world began an unprecedented journey as the COVID-19 pandemic created a global impact, resulting in widespread closures. The service invoked its pandemic business continuity plan that has served as a roadmap to guide us throughout this pandemic. While the service settled into the new normal, nevertheless, we continue to forge ahead with finalizing our equity, diversity, and inclusion strategic plan, including the development of the internal inclusion committee, while continuing to engage with community members on our Chief of Police Community Inclusion Council. When the first emergency orders were enacted on March 17, 2020, due to COVID-19, the service experienced an initial drop in call for service volume. However, the call for service volume has steadily increased to pre-pandemic levels. Additionally, the service has had 1,252 COVID-related calls for service to date, and the additional call volume can be expected to continue for some time. Despite an overall drop in call volume year to date, we continue to trend upwards in crime statistics. Homicides are trending above our previous 4-year 2016 to 2019 average of just over 3 homicides per year on average. To date in 2020, we've had 5 homicides, which, as the board knows, consume a considerable amount of personal hours and resources to ensure a thorough and comprehensive investigation. To date, the Special Victims Unit is reporting an increase in human trafficking and internet child exploitation investigations over last year. While the service has experienced a decrease in the number of domestic violence investigations, there has been an increase in the overall number of domestic-related calls for service. Just for clarification, there are 4 different categories within our records management system related to domestic calls for service. As of November 1st, 2020, total combined deaths from fatal motor vehicle collisions investigated by our service stands at 18, and this is up from 15 in 2018 and 17 deaths in 2019. Despite the impact of the pandemic, service investigative services continues to suppress ongoing criminal activity, including that of organized crime and other organized criminal investigations. One example being Project Woolwich, a 12-month collaborative investigation involving the service and other law enforcement partners, which disrupted an illicit cannabis operation. This investigation led to 8 persons arrested, a total of 213 charges, and the seizure of just over 101,000 cannabis plants and approximately $3.1 million in various currency that was seized. I want to start the discussion of the proposed 21 operating budget by highlighting those cost pressures that are impacting our base budget. This year, these pressures will increase our base budget by 3.8%, or roughly $5.9 million over the 2020 budget. As reported, 91% of our operating budget is the cost of compensation. And as the slide indicates, 93% of the base increase for 2021, or a total of $5.5 million, is related to wage settlements, as well as the remaining budget required to annualize the 40 officer program that was approved effective July 1st, 2020. The 2021 budget includes the additional funding required to annualize the 40 officers' compensation for the 6-month period of January to June, which was not included in the 2020 budget. A slight offset of the compensation cost increases are savings in uniform salary due to efficiencies implemented within the Emergency Investigative Services Division that will repurpose 5 sergeant positions to constable positions, and from the change in budget days between 2020 and 2021, where 2021 has 1 less salary budget day. Net cost increases in other expense and revenue categories relate to costs associated with the purchase of software license agreements for digital evidence management, and a budget reduction to the court security and prisoner transport provincial funding that reflects the 2020 actual funding that's been received. As detailed throughout this presentation, our 2020 budget approach, as always, is evidence-based and in alignment with the board's strategic plan. The 5 program changes that we will present to you today are investments in the service with realizable benefits. This year, our program changes total $738,611, which represents a 0.5% increase over the 2020 budget. The first program change is related to the request for a second records analyst to support this service mandate to transition to electronic record keeping system, and for the records information management unit to be the single repository for records and statistical data. The position will assist the unit to achieve the board's goal number 3.8 for the modernization of records management, with a target set at 80% of all records electronically filed, stored, and retrievable by 2021. This approval will ensure a dedicated resource that's focused on central record keeping and ensure control over information assets. The cost of the position is $92,740. However, the program is self-funded by the unit as it's secured third-party revenue funding from a third-party partnership to provide automated records keeping. The second program change relates to a request from our forensic services unit for a detective constable to complete its staff resourcing of B platoon. This specialized team of trained officers and civilian technicians provides crime scene examination and technical analysis to all investigative branches throughout the service, and is responsible for locating, recording, gathering, analyzing, and evaluating physical evidence from crime scenes. This unit operates on a 4-platoon system supported by 3 detective constables, with the exception of B platoon, which only has 2 officers and requires the backfilling during scheduled and unscheduled absences such as leave, court, or sick time, to be filled through the redeployment of the civilian forensic services technician. While the technician is redeployed, the DNA coordinator duties and responsibilities inherent in that role are covered by a modified uniform member if and when available. The benefits to this program will ensure that we are efficiently deploying human resources, which promotes a healthy workforce and mitigates any risks related to the lag in processing high caseload volumes. The cost of adding this third detective constable to our forensic services unit is at $154,810, which covers all wages, benefits, and other allowances. The third program change relates to a request for a newly created position, the missing persons coordinator, who will oversee human trafficking, who will report to the human trafficking sergeant in the Special Victims Unit. On July 1st, 2019, the Missing Persons Act was passed after the Government of Ontario recognized that circumstances surrounding missing persons cases are unique and recognized that sexism, racism, transphobia, homophobia, and other forms of marginalization, including the legacy of colonization, are factors that may increase the risk of a person becoming a missing person. This new legislation increased police powers to obtain records to assist investigators in locating missing persons, instituting a mandatory reporting obligation for all police services. Each service must now complete and submit an annual report to the province. According to the National Missing Person DNA data bank, maintained by the RCMP, as of June 2020, Niagara region has 120 currently open missing persons investigations and is currently ranked second overall in Canada for the percentage of unidentified human remains. For your information, there are 47 unidentified human remains investigations, which represents 7% of the total overall numbers in Canada. Although these numbers can be contributed and attributed to the unique geographics of the Niagara region, they cannot be dismissed. Unlike other police services that have a higher than average number of outstanding missing persons and identified human remains investigations, Niagara currently does not have a designated position to coordinate and monitor outstanding missing persons and unidentified human remains investigations. This position will ensure that we have a single point of contact to coordinate efforts with our police agencies, both nationally and internationally, and allow us to better share information in a timely manner that will ensure that outstanding cases remain active. Also vitally important, this dedicated position will be the single point of contact for the victims' families, as it will act as the liaison officer between the service and the family members. The benefits of this program will ensure that the service commitment to the community by investing in a dedicated resource to the missing and or vulnerable persons of the community, and ensure that the service is able to meet the annual reporting requirements under the Missing Persons Act. The cost of this position is $156,906, which covers all wages, benefits, and other allowances. The fourth program change is a request for a new sergeant position to be added to our member support unit. As you're aware, the member support unit has been under the leadership of Staff Sergeant Sandy Staniforth, who will expand her leadership role with the addition of the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion unit that's also being added to her portfolio. The Staff Sergeant will assume the responsibility for the implementation and ongoing management of the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion unit on behalf of the service, including oversight of the DEI strategic plan. As you're well aware, your investment in the member support unit over the past two budget cycles has enabled this unit to implement a number of initiatives, including the reintegration and safeguarding programs that have been positively received amongst our members of the service. Your return on the reintegration program investment is the safe return of members to the workplace, where their member returning is more engaged, confident, and ready to perform their duties. The program provides an individual pathway for return that should enable them to not only return, but stay in the workplace. The safeguarding program is a preventive strategy focused in specialty units such as our ICE unit, forensics, traffic reconstruction, where members experience repeated secondary trauma. This program works with active members, providing personal and confidential assessment on their stress levels to prevent mental health issues related to continuous exposure of their work assignment. The service continues to analyze the program's effectiveness and is adapting best practices as identified. Your continued investment will demonstrate the commitment of promoting the mental and physical well-being of members while ensuring that the service is best positioned to implement best practices in member wellness programs. The cost of this position is $159,894, which covers wages, benefits, and other allowances. The fifth and final program change is a request to establish a dedicated 2-member equity, diversity, and inclusion unit to work under the staff sergeant of member support in the implementation and rollout of the service's DEI strategic plan. In early 2013, the Niagara Regional Police Service conducted an assessment of the state of equity, diversity, and inclusion within the service, and the first diversity, equity, and inclusion plan was implemented December 20th, 2013. Unfortunately, a number of the objectives were not acted upon during the life of the plan, largely due to insufficient resources that were dedicated to achieving the plan. The service did not have a specific portfolio for equity, diversity, and inclusion, and therefore in 2017, a diversity portfolio was added to the duties and responsibilities of the policy and risk sergeant, creating in essence a part-time position. Although by the end of the plan's term, the service had achieved many of the plan's objectives, many others were not fully realized. By the end of 2019, it was recognized that a new path forward was needed. A committee was struck to identify goals and develop a new DEI strategic plan with realistic, achievable objectives and measurable performance indicators. Shortly after completion of the plan came the unfortunate death of Mr. George Floyd in Minneapolis and the ensuing events that cast widespread focus upon issues of systemic institutional racism, conversations surrounding defunding of police services, and the identification of anti-racism as a societal goal. Although our community was impacted by those events, the service continues to garner strong community support, and more than ever, the actions of the service moving forward are incredibly important. Census metropolitan area data for 2011 and 2016 indicates significant population growth within our diverse communities, which we must also continue to strive to reflect. A scan of policing organizations within the province has demonstrated that the service is lacking in our commitment to resources towards equity, diversity, and inclusion as compared to other police services of comparable size that have committed more significant resources through the formation of dedicated EDI units. The benefits of this program will enable the service to have a dedicated multidisciplinary core unit that will have high potential for success in achieving the goals of the DEI strategic plan. A lack of dedicated resources may erode community trust and confidence. The cost of the program is $267,001, which covers wages, benefits, and other allowances for a sergeant and civilian specialist position. To recap Our overall 2021 budget increase, including program change, results in an overall net expenditure before indirect allocations budget of $161,060,041, which represents a 4.3% increase over the 2020 budget. It's important to point out the budget assumptions that were used to develop this proposed budget, which identifies the risks as well as the opportunities. And these assumptions are as follows. With respect to the COVID-19 pandemic, we assume that some form of emergency orders will remain in effect in 2021. Therefore, the service will continue to procure PPE and engage in deep cleaning services. While these costs are not significant, these costs are expected to be offset with savings from staff training and our development budget. The most significant cost impact from the COVID-19 pandemic on our service is the loss of the City of Niagara Falls OLG transfer payments. And as a result, we have assumed the casinos will reopen by April 1st, 2021. And therefore, we are assuming a loss of $1.05 million in revenue for 2021. This loss is offset by a transfer from the region's taxpayer relief reserve. Just to note, the region has received approximately $12.2 million from the province's Phase 1 Safe Start Restart program in 2020, and any excess year-end surplus funds will be transferred to the region's taxpayer relief reserve fund to be used to mitigate any COVID-19 costs in 2021. Other assumptions included in the 2021 budget are provincial grant funding levels that will remain at 2020 actuals, that our 40 officers from the 2020 program change will be hired and trained by Q1 2021, that we will achieve the goals set out in the board's 2019-2021 strategic plan, and that there are potential for additional third-party revenues for our P25 public radio subscription services, which are not presently accounted for within the budget proposal. Technology enhancements, specifically Next Generation 911 and digital evidence management, present both budget opportunities and budget risks. This concludes our budget presentation at this time, and I would invite any questions from the board in regards to the 2021 operating budget and our recommended program changes. I have Ms. Laura Rouleau, our finance manager, available for questions, as well as the various superintendents and director of the school, should there be any subject matter expertise that's required to assist in drilling down into the various program changes. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Chief. Excellent presentation. At this point in time, I'm going to ask for a motion to put the report on the floor. And if there's any questions of both the presentation and the report, they can be addressed to the chief at this point in time. And as he mentioned, if he doesn't have the answer, he can then relay it to the subject matter expert. Member Gale, you'll move it, seconded by Member Gibson. And so at this point in time, I'll open it up for questions and discussion. Member Gibson? Oh, right now you're on mute.
I was unmuted. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can hear you.
Through you. Just going back to the records analyst position, the addition of the $92,740. It comes from a third-party revenue. Can that just be explained a bit more to me? I'm just not sure what that is.
Through you, Chair, you'll recall that there has been reports that have come forward to the board with regards to a third-party vendor that we've contracted with regarding records checks. So there is funding that is anticipated in the 2021
Oh,
budget
okay, yeah.
that will offset that position.
Right, thank you. I recall that now. Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Member Gale?
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the Chief. Chief, on the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusions Unit for $267,000, the two officers, the sergeant and the constable. I'm wondering if you reached out to these groups for assistance. I'm looking at the cost of that, and I'm also looking at the stance over the last 6 months about defunding police by groups like this and others. And I'm wondering if the cost justifies it. If you had input from them, if you could expand on that, please.
Through you, Chair, absolutely. So we have consulted with our Chief of Police Community Inclusion Council, as well as our own internal inclusion committee that we've struck. And I can tell you that the creation of a dedicated EDI unit is incredibly well received, and we think will benefit our community in many ways. Historically, we know that racism exists in society, within society, and that systemic racism exists within the judicial system and within the institution of policing, and really all segments of society, be it education, healthcare, and other government institutions. We also recognize that historically there are many factors that have led to a lack of trust with the police by racialized groups and other equity-seeking groups. With the implementation of our EDI strategic plan, we're committed to building strong relationships with members of the BIPOC community and other equity-seeking groups so that we can break down those barriers, further enhance community trust and confidence in our ability to deliver bias-free policing to our community, and ultimately become an employer of choice. We acknowledge that the Niagara region is becoming more and more diverse, and we significantly lag behind our Big 12 counterparts with regards to committing dedicated resources to equity, diversity, and inclusion. By doing so, your investment in this unit, we believe that we can significantly build upon the trust and confidence that's absolutely critical to effectively police our community, and that we've worked hard to establish within our community, while at the same time assist with our recruiting efforts to become more reflective of the community that we serve and ensure that we are welcoming and an inclusive police service that truly embraces the benefits of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
So thank you for that. And a further question, 267 is a lot of money, and I understand the problems, and you've justified it. So can we take it for granted that these officers, number one, will reach out to these groups and naturally the officers, but and I'll use the example because I was at City Council with Justice for Black Lives and things like this, for input from them about problems they perceive in that. I'll just please give me the answer to that question first, and I've got another one after that.
So through you, Chair, absolutely, that will be a core responsibility of the unit and of those members in particular, as well as our continued discussions that have been, very enriching with our Chief of Police and Community Inclusion Council, and again working with our internal committee to again foster that inclusive workplace within the service.
And a further question: the citizens are being driven nuts because every government institution has a committee like this, and I just wonder if they work hand in hand. And another question, I'll use the example of our chair who is from Port Colborne. If Port Colborne has a question on something like that, and wants to solve a problem they might have, can they call the police, and would you make the police available to, because we're all one region, we've all paid into this, that we can help other groups so that not every and I'll go use the other mayor from Wainfleet, the smallest community in the area. Maybe they don't have the resources to set up something like this, but that they can come to our committee or by phone call, we can help them if they had an incident like this, so that they don't, so Mayor Gibson doesn't have to form his own committee if he doesn't have to on some of this. I just want to be able to help, because it seems like everybody's forming a committee on this stuff, and it's the right thing. But if we have the best, we can help everybody, because it's one regional taxpayer.
Thank you. And through the chair, much like our approach to crime prevention, we've realized the benefits of and the importance of collaborating with the community to help get feedback, to assist us in doing our job better, to be able to solve crimes better. Much the same with what we project will be the roles and responsibilities of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Unit. Will be that community collaboration again, which is incredibly vital to us building strong relationships, enhancing the relationships. We also know that some of the racialized communities and some of the equity-seeking groups are difficult to recruit from and have not traditionally selected policing as a career opportunity. And we believe that by building, again, strong relationships, build trust, that we'll be able to recruit from those communities and make our service, again, more reflective of the diversity that we're seeing here in the region.
Okay, I'm good, Chair. Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing no questions at this time, I do have one that I just wanted a bit of clarity. It's in the report on page 4. And I know you mentioned it during the presentation that it's regards the casino and the OLG transfer. It mentions the expected opening is April 1st. And then what happens if it opens sooner, then the taxpayer relief reserve fund will be reduced by the amount unbudgeted revenue. Is there, now if it flips the other way and the casino is for some reason delayed in opening and the revenues decline, will the taxpayer relief reserve pick up the difference going the opposite direction through to the chief?
Through you, Chair, and I believe that is in discussions with region finance staff. I believe that that's what is proposed, but I'll let Laura Rouleau top that up.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, good morning. Through to the chair. It is a very good question. I think it will depend on whether we have any surpluses that could offset, but I believe the region is dedicated to ensuring that any COVID impact costs would be offset. So they did say about the fact that if we are to receive our revenues earlier, that obviously we wouldn't tap into the taxpayer relief reserve. But I think there was an implied assumption that should the reverse happen, that they would also cover that.
Thank you. Is there any further questions from the board members? So at this time, just for the public, I'm going to read what the motion is that the board members are going to be voting on. It's reports the 2021 Niagara Regional Police Service and Police Services Board proposed operating budget. The recommendation that's been moved and seconded is the board approve the proposed 2021 operating budget for the police service, the Police Services Board, resulting in a total net expenditure budget before indirect allocations of $161,060.41 million, and further that the 2021 operating budget for the Police Services Board and Police Services Service be submitted to Regional Council for approval. So that's what the board is voting on. So at this time, I'll ask all in favor, and if you could just raise your hand to indicate that you support. Those opposed, it's carried. That takes care of our regularly scheduled new business. Is there any other new business that the board members or the chief need to bring forward at this point in time? Seeing none, then we move to adjournment. Deb, do we need a motion for adjournment?
No, you don't.
Okay, so at this point in time, we're just adjourning our meeting. Thank you, members, and thank you for those. Again, Chief, thank you and your staff for putting the information together so concisely and comprehensively that the board had very few questions moving forward at this time.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's adjournment. Thanks, everybody.
Later.
Thank you.
See
Bye-bye.
ya.